Hello again, I am Blunty. A week ago, I slapped up a video with my current thoughts and opinions around the PlayStation VR 2. And I saw a few people talking about the slick-looking headset and tidy package of choice VR technologies and inquiring about using it on PC. And that's not really a silly question. There is a piece of middleware called iVRy, or iVRy, iVRy? I don't know. And its whole deal is running PC VR titles without a dedicated PC VR headset, like using Gear VR or the Oculus Go and similar Android and iOS phone VR solutions. And yes, the original generation PlayStation VR headset. I've never needed to try it, but it apparently works quite well. But will it, or a similar solution, even work for the PSVR 2? When I spoke about the PSVR 2 last time, typically, the Sony ponies heard the lack of absolute universal praise and interpreted my realistic evaluation of the technologies at play and how they compare to what's already on the market and has been on the market for many, many years already. And upon hearing this lack of absolute universal praise, the average Sony fanboy span into an apoplectic fit of rage, and it was as if I had personally kicked their grandmother in the back of their head. Hardcore Sony ponies are wacky little pillocks, but please try and listen this time. What they didn't hear me say, because they never actually listen to what you say, they just hear one thing that's not absolute universal praise and call you an Xbox fanboy and then take a wet dump on the English language on their way out of the comments section. But what they didn't hear was I do expect it to review quite well. Independent reviews, I mean, from reviewers Sony hasn't hand-picked, because you can't trust those. And if you would like to know exactly why you can't trust those, feel free to watch the other video where I explain it. The tech is solid because, frankly, everything Sony are doing is proven in the market already for a few years now in other products. They're only using what's already working, so it should be fine. It should be good. So for the record, I think the hardware is good. Overpriced for the type of consumer that buys consoles as a primary gaming device, which again, context Sony ponies. I know there's even more expensive PC and standalone headsets out there. When I call the PSVR too expensive, the difference is those other headsets are not being sold for this kind of market, the casual console consumer. And that is why I consider it overpriced, especially considering it costs more on its own than the PS5 it needs to even function in the first place does. Anyway, with the console experience making setup easy and the user experience being absolutely consistent and reliable, as is the main benefit of consoles in general, of course, I'm quite sure most of the games and experience titles will probably be pretty well engineered. None of that is true of the wild variability that exists in the PC-based VR space, of course, despite the obvious power and flexibility and free customer choice benefits that platform otherwise has, much like regular PC gaming versus console gaming. There is a price to pay for better. But considering its expense and the fact that all of its technologies, save Sony's own DualSense haptic feedback implementation, there's no reason it couldn't run on PC, theoretically, if, and that's a big if, Sony wanted that in the first place, because it'd basically have to be down to an in-house solution for that to happen. You should not expect PSVR to ever work on PC, and certainly not anytime soon. And this isn't just me speaking here. This is the developer of iVRy, themselves speaking. And considering they are the one who made the original PSVR work on PC in the first place, it's probably safe to take their word at face value on this. So I'll read this in their own words. You would be wasting your money, as there is no guarantee you could ever use it on PC, and quite a good chance that you won't be able to. The original PSVR is electronically equivalent to a monitor, and so it is relatively simple to get a video signal up on it. Now, what they're saying there is absolutely true. The original PSVR was basically just a HDMI device, which worked like a specialized monitor. The video input was a standard HDMI feed, so it's easy to pump in whatever video you like. Of course, it won't look or act like VR unless it's formatted correctly and it's rendered with some kind of motion tracking feedback from an outside source. As again, the PSVR headset didn't do any tracking itself. That was tracked externally with a camera tracking a couple of lights on the damn thing, which is also why it didn't track very well, because that's not a very reliable way to track. iVRy continues. It took a lot of reverse engineering and at least a year from release before anyone figured that out. And then it took a couple more years before it was able to be used as a PC VR headset. Tracking and controllers using the original hardware is still very much a work in progress, even to this day, over 5 years from release, and that is without Sony making any effort to prevent non-PS4 users from using it. So Sony aren't standing in the way, in other words. So yeah, the headset works. The original PSVR controllers, not so much yet, although I have successfully used those in VR before, but they did not work very well. Like at all. And that's fine because they are complete crap anyway. Even when they do work as designed on the PlayStation 4 itself, they're crap. They're horrible. They're the worst VR controllers on the market. You're better off using something else anyway, so that's not a big deal when it comes to the original VR headset and using it on PC. But they continue. The PSVR 2 is unreleased. It's quite possible that Sony have encrypted the signals, which all run over USB because the PSVR 2 has just a single USB 3.0 cable, to prevent non-PlayStation use. Even if they hadn't, it would take a lot of reverse engineering, read several years, just to get an image on the headset. Then there is the tracking, which would need to be developed as there isn't a ready-made SLAM tracker available for Windows, assuming, of course, the camera protocol was reverse engineered at all. Now, what they're talking about there, when they say SLAM tracking, it's an acronym for Simultaneous Localization and Mapping, basically inside-out tracking using headset-mounted cameras. Other VR headsets use this and have been using it for many years, but there is no standard for it built into Windows. That's what he's talking about there. So it'd have to be reverse engineered and have code nearly written from scratch, basically just to do the tracking, and that's a big task even if the camera feed, motion information or whatever can be pulled from the headset in the first place, and if you can get the video up to it, if that's any kind of standard, it's a very, very big job, especially compared to the original PlayStation VR. On this subject, they continue. For further context, on USB headsets, referred to the Quest, which has already been out for 3.5 years, in that time, no one has managed to figure out anything non-sanctioned about it. Even with the ability to develop and debug software on the headset itself, it is completely locked down. Expect the same with PSVR 2, with absolutely no in available. So yeah, Sony being Sony, and we should expect everything to be done the PlayStation way here, I'd expect the PSVR to be very locked down and very hostile when it comes to trying to get the thing to work on anything but Sony-sanctioned hardware. It'd be nice to be wrong on this. It'd be fantastic to be wrong on this, so the PSVR can have a much more valuable life for those who do spend the asking price for it. But you have to remember, it is Sony. So there you are. Don't hope to use the PSVR 2 on PC, and really do not buy one with the expectation it might come along down the line. Only buy it if you've got no other valid option for VR, meaning you don't already have a halfway powerful PC gaming rig, or unless you have a deep and abiding need for the VR exclusive the PSVR 2 will have on PlayStation 5, which is fair. A couple do look pretty damn good. But then again, Sony have been publishing their regular games to PC recently, so who knows, the VR titles may even follow. The PC VR market is well established, it's fairly large, so there is money sitting on the table there for Sony if they want to do that. But there you go. Hopefully that's helped a few of you out with this question, and hopefully this will be a useful touchstone. And again, I would love to be wrong. I would really love to be wrong on this because, you know, if you spend on hardware, it's nice to be able to use it the way you choose to use it. But again, it is Sony. It is a console experience, so I wouldn't hold your breath. I would not hold your breath. So thanks for watching. I am Blunty. I'll catch you next time. Thank you as always to the patrons scrolling up above there. Who's above and beyond support is always valued. Thank you very, very much. And I'll catch you guys next time.